Hey, what's going on, everybody? Hey, this is your boy JC from JC Sports Talk, and today I have with me, a special guest. A matter of fact, a friend of the show at this point. I love bringing him on. I love having him on. Hey, welcome to the stream, Chris. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Always a pleasure having me on. And in the beginning of the show, we took a moment of silence for the lives lost down in Texas. And honestly, like we're fresh off of the lives lost off in Buffalo, and it's just
Exactly.
crazy because it's just like constantly. Because as soon as you catch your breath after, or try to catch your breath after one thing, it's something else, and things got to get better. Like we can say thoughts and prayers, but people in power got to take action, and just more and more people got to voice how angry they are because whether it's gun violence, drug overdoses, suicide, like things are just not right in this country and around the world, and we definitely got to make a change. But sorry to get into heavy stuff, but obviously we're here to talk about sports, but it's important though. Sports are important, but taking care of teachers and children, that has to be a priority over everything because you should be able to just get an education,
Mhm.
be with your friends and kicking it without fearing for your lives. So rest in peace, all those people, and appreciate all the first responders that were there to help out in those situations.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Hey, I echo everything that you just said, man, because hey, it's tough out here. But hey, life. Hey, what I Well, growing up in sports, man, I found through every tragedy, sports is a place where you could go to take your mind off of things. All
Definitely.
right. So, when 9/11 happened, it was tough for the Yankees to play after that, NFL. But, that's our way, that's our little outlet and stuff like that. So, we about to talk about the Eagles because that's our team. That's a team we love, we love watching and rooting for. So, hey, I know I haven't had you on here in a while, and I know you ain't got much time, but just give me a quick recap of the draft and how you think it went for the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah, the draft overall, uh, it's one of the usually there's you have to, obviously you have to see wait and see the players play, but unlike other years, it's a draft where you can say I feel good about it because we took guys at premium
Facts.
positions from premier schools. It's not like
Mm-hmm.
we took a guy from a school like guy was good in college, but he's not from the level competition that you want to see. We're getting guys from historic defense in Georgia. We got two of the top players, arguably the best linebacker in the draft. And let's see these guys play. However, right now on paper, the Eagles have a tremendous draft. Jordan Davis is going to be an impact player for a long time. I'm a huge Kyron guy, and I wouldn't be fine with your guy. But that being said, I'd rather take one of the two
Mm-hmm.
rather deviate course, which we usually would on, and someone else or reach somewhere. Like I think Jordan Davis luckily got to meet him last weekend. Awesome kid, and Cam was a pick of all of them that was like it was weird because like I
Mm-hmm.
expected it because it was such an Eagles Howie Roseman pick, but it was one of those times where I'm like maybe this is a time to do it. But I get it though. I think Cam Jurgens, this is the time where Kelsey's on his last year probably. This
Yes.
guy needs some work. Cam Jurgens is a really solid player, but he needs some work. And if he can sit behind Kelsey and these other guys for a year, work with Jeff Stoutland, you're going to get a dog eventually. And it's really good to get your hands on him now rather than throwing him into the fire next, or whoever it would have been next year. And overall, though, I really do like the draft. I think that they hit on positions of need. I think that if you really look at the
Mm-hmm.
draft and you look at what they've done to top it off in free agency, the whole picture of it all, it's really good. And obviously, we're gonna. This is leading into AJ Brown, but I just want to
Yes.
say, like, you have to remember that he's pretty much a part of this draft class.
Exactly. So hey, it's funny how you talk about AJ Brown. So hey, tell me like what was going through your mind when the Philadelphia Eagles not move up, but they, traded with the Tennessee Titans for AJ Brown with the number 18th pick. So what was going through your mind? Did you see it coming or what? I mean, did you hear rumors or anything?
Yeah, I was like kind of sprinkling like nuggets out on the Twitter timeline about AJ Brown because
Mhm,
everyone was hearing about it. Like it was
mhm.
to the point where like it was
What?
out there a lot where like people were like just hearing like, oh, AJ Brown, Eagles. Like Eagles fans were like
Yeah.
seeing Jalen Hurts and AJ Brown like hanging out together at AJ Brown's daughter's birthday party, and just in general like they were training together. and then there's all the news that he was disgruntled, and then like, okay, like
Mhm.
pieces are kind of coming together. And then so I reached out to a couple people I know, and then people were like, hey, like there actually is a lot of smoke to it. And that then when I found out like a couple days or a week ahead of time that AJ Brown turned down the contract, but then I heard that the contract was a real lowball contract. I'm like, wow, like the Eagles actually might have a chance at this, because not only is it a position in need, but it's a
Mhm.
really big splash move that Howie Roseman needed. Like that was like the move that's like, okay, like the fans are kind of on the edge of like, do I like him? Do I not like him right now with Howie Roseman? If you go out and get AJ Brown while also have gotten Devontae Smith the year before, you're getting two of the better receivers in franchise history at the same time, on the same team at the same time,
Mhm.
for a quarterback that needs the help, and a guy that like it's just one of those things that AJ Brown is an alpha. Like don't let anyone tell you that he's not an elite receiver. He is an elite receiver, and
Mhm.
he was on a run for first offense. Not to say we might still be a run first offense, but I think with
Mhm.
AJ Brown, it brings in way more balance. I think that Jalen Hurts coming into a full like second year as a starter and having the timing down with Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, and now bringing in his boy and AJ Brown, I think the sky's the limit, because I think that not only do the Eagles have two deep at every position on offense and defense,
Mhm.
the line is really deep on offense and defense, and he's going to have that brick wall to throw in front of, and it's just about Jalen Hurts taking that jump. And I know that we're going to get into that next too, but overall, though, like having AJ Brown as just a presence in general is huge, because Devontae Smith isn't going to get double covered. AJ Brown really can't get double covered, and even if you did
Mhm.
put 2 and 2 on each of them, you have Dallas Goedert, and you have all these other
Quez,
guys,
yeah,
Quez,
Quez and Pascal, and
and you got
you
all
know,
these people coming out of the backfield too. Like, and Jalen Hurts can run, so it really opens up a lot of possibilities. It's gonna be awesome to see. But I love AJ Brown. I'm really excited about the signing.
okay, before we talk about Hertz and AJ Brown, do you see Jalen Rager being on this team when September comes around?
Man, that's one thing I'm not sure of, because before the draft, I know that like him and Miles Sanders were like two guys that they were kind of dangling out in the trade block, as well as Andre Dillard. And then you heard everything
Was
about
Miles
Derek
Sanders
Carr.
out there too? Really?
Yeah, because he's on his
Wow.
last year of his deal, and
Mhm.
they're pretty high on Kenneth Gainwell, and obviously, like they have some other bodies they could throw in there. But when you're hearing about Jalen Reagor, right before during the draft, it came out that the Eagles and the Baltimore Ravens were talking about Chuck
Yeah.
Clark trade, which would be a huge position of need, and it's still being discussed. I do know for a fact that they did bring it back up again, because
Wow.
it makes a lot of sense. The Ravens got rid of Hollywood Brown. Obviously, not to equate Jalen Reagor and Hollywood Brown, but in general, it's a wide receiver, and it's a position in need for the Ravens, and it just makes sense because the Eagles pretty much have like 5, 6 wide receivers, and
Exactly.
besides the top three, it's kind of like a weird like they're like you don't know who's gonna make the team after Quez and those guys, because like Pascal, he's an okay addition, but that being said, he actually finished behind Jalen Reagor overall in wide receiver rankings in 2021. So it's gonna be interesting to see. It's really frustrating because
Mm.
like you hear all these things about Jalen, and it's one of those things like prior to him being in the NFL, I talked to coaches, I talked to players, and everyone's oh yeah, like he's solid, like he does this, he does that,
Mm.
but like you can't really scout until like you get to talk to the person like in between the ears, and so far that's been the issue with Jalen Reagor. It hasn't really been
Yeah.
talent, because you hear things about practice. I mean, we've
Hmm.
seen the clips during the summer,
Yeah.
but when it doesn't matter. But then when it comes to like game time, like don't get me wrong, like I understand like he is like everyone rips on him on Twitter, rightfully so in some ways, but like people act like he's the worst wide receiver ever. It's like he really isn't. Like if you look at like guys like N'Keal Harry on the Patriots, N'Keal Harry has way worse stats than him, and with more games played, and he was drafted nearly as high, and he was drafted over guys like DK Metcalf and AJ Brown and Debo Samuel. So it's just one of those things where it is like it blows up for Jalen Reagor, because not
He's in
only
Philly, and
well that
he's on our team.
no, that and on top, no, that's what I'm saying. Like that, and on top of that, you took J Jaw instead of DK Metcalf and AJ Brown. Right, I mean, in front of them the year before, and this is after decades of not being able to hit
Exactly.
on the position. We took Jordan Matthews instead of Devontae Adams. We took Freddie Mitchell instead of Reggie Wayne, and like it's decades of this, and it just blew up because everyone is watching
Are you still there? All right, so we having a little bit of difficulties right now, but he will come back.
Sorry,
But look,
all right, I'm
okay,
back. I'm back. All
all
right,
right.
we
That's
good?
good. No, you good? Yeah, you
Sorry.
good.
Listen, so then I was gonna say, so you have years and years and years, decades and decades and
Hmm.
decades of us missing out on premier guys, and then everyone is watching Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and Justin Jefferson light up national televised football, and everyone's like, "Wow, Justin Jefferson just scored all these touchdowns against Oklahoma. Like this dude is amazing." And then you're like, "There's no way he's gonna make it to the 21st pick." LSU, I literally have the national championship signed ball right here. Like, I'm like, there's no way Justin Jefferson's gonna make it to 21, and he did, and
He
he
did.
didn't take him because like that was one of the things. I was like, oh yeah, like I'm completely fine. I'm sold. I'm like I like Jalen Rager at 21 because everyone kept telling
Uh,
me that I talked to, they're gonna take him at 21. That's the guy. Like I'm like, okay, that's cool. Like that's awesome. Like I can see him fitting on this offense if he was as advertised. But in no world do you take him over Justin Jefferson. Like if you like that was the thing. Like people were trying to sell me on Denzel Mims. I'm like, absolutely not. He does nothing for me. T Higgins, yeah, I'm fine with taking T Higgins at 21 because he's a guy coming from a national championship caliber team. But
yeah,
it's just one of those things, man. Like I don't think he's still going to be on the team. Like it's just like I think they have to trade him. It's best
yeah.
for
I think
him
they do.
and like what if he's bad in camp or whatever, like what are you going to do? Cut him and get him and get like barely anything back from him? Like if now this is the time you trade him for anything. Anything. Like you give him a chance to go on a different team, have an off season with a different team. Like good for him. If he ends up catching on somewhere else, like Nelson
Mhm.
Aguilar did, even though Nelson did solid his last year, it would just be cool. Like, hey, dude, just go, just go. It's so bad. It's every day on social media. Something's happening with him, and it's too much.
It is. It is. Hey, look, I agree with you. I mean, but right now with the AJ Brown signing, I'm pretty sure that the Philadelphia Eagle fans have forgiven Howie for all these bad wide receiver draft that he
Hmm.
had, and we try and move forward. So let's talk
Absolutely.
about Hurts and AJ Brown. So do you feel like the type of impact that Hurts and Jalen Brown, because of the chemistry, would be like a Josh Allen and Diggs or Dak Prescott and Cooper, both of those guys, once they got that number one wide receiver, they like their passing game became even more better than the previous year before. We all heard about the whole Josh Allen was what inaccurate. He couldn't be accurate enough, this and that. And slowly but surely, over the years, he improved. So, what type of impact do you see Brown having on Jalen Hurts as far as his passing game?
I think the one thing, well, it's just you just have to keep on adding the context on with Josh Allen. Like Dak's a little different because Dak is more of a type of a guy like Jalen more than Josh Allen. Because
Mm-hmm.
Josh Allen was someone that like him and Mahomes like they had like freakish size, freakish arm strength. They were just really raw. The thing with Jalen and Dak is that they both at the early beginnings of the NFL careers
Mm-hmm.
issues processing, not overall amazing arm strength, but just like solid guys that had mobility, were high character, and just like ridiculous work ethic. And that's what they both have. And now with Jalen, you know this dude's gonna put in the work. He has. He
Yeah.
has command over the locker room,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just about him breaking bad habits with going through progressions, him breaking bad habits in the pocket, and him understanding that his arm strength isn't something that's really going to change too much. Like we've seen examples, like the ball against San Francisco that was on a dime, the Quez Watkins, like
Yeah.
that's an example of him trusting his training and trusting his eyes. Like I was at that game, and like as soon as I saw him load up and throw it, I knew he was going to get it there because it's almost night and day when he's
Mm-hmm.
trusting his training and when he's not. He gets
Exactly.
happy feet sometimes, and it's one of those things where you see those moments, and it's like, okay, there's something there.
Mm-hmm.
Let's build around him and let's keep capturing it more and more, and that's how you get to be a consistent starter in the NFL. And with AJ Brown is he like nullifies a lot of the issues that
Mm-hmm.
Jalen has. Like AJ Brown is a yak guy. AJ Brown is a guy that makes the
Exactly.
quarterback right
Facts.
more than wrong. And that's why you go and get him, because not only do they get along, it
Mm-hmm.
just makes so much sense to have one of the best yards after catch guy with a quarterback that might not be able to get the ball downfield as much, but if you just get him the ball in space, he's going to make work happen. And people need to understand that. Like, you don't always have to throw to the wide open guy down the field. You
He's,
can throw it to the guy that's wide open underneath and then just let him
mm-hmm.
work. Like, a lot of A.J. Brown's catches, it's like a 10-yard dig, and then he just does magic. Like, and Devontae Smith's going to be doing the same thing. Dallas Goedert's going to be doing the same thing. Kenneth Gainwell, the backfield, is going to be doing the same thing. It's literally just Jalen Hurts becoming more and more comfortable in the offense, more and more comfortable in his own skin, and just understanding I don't have to do everything. I can just my job is to get the ball, secure the ball, and get it to my guys, and then they'll do the rest. And that's really all it is. Him understanding he doesn't have to be Superman. He just has to be the quarterback, which is Superman sometimes, but
Yeah.
and it needs to come out sometimes. But it's just him doing his job and taking care of the ball.
But see, a lot of people think that AJ Brown is going to get mad sometime throughout the season because he's not going to get the 1,000 yards or the touchdowns. So let me ask you a question. So how many touchdowns do you see AJ Brown getting, Devontae Smith getting, or Dallas Goedert getting? Like, do you see double digits, or you see like between 7 and 8 on, you know, and for these core guys like Goddard, Smith, and Brown?
If I had to predict lines, I think AJ Brown is probably going to be at like, I would say like 85 catches, 1,000. I would say like I think he's going to break 1,000. I think he's going to be at like 1050 and like
Okay.
9 touchdowns. And then I think Devontae Smith is going to be a little more high volume. I think Devontae is going to hit 90. I think he'll probably be at like
Whoa.
1100,
Nice.
and I think that he'll probably have like 8 touchdowns. And then Goddard's going to be the guy that it's hard to tell what he's going to do. If he's going to be like the
Mm-hmm.
forgotten one and then get loose a lot, I think Goddard's probably going to be like what, like
Set.
60, like 60, 65, like 850, and then I think he's going to be a touchdown monster because I think he's just going to be like the big dude in the red zone. Like I would say
Mm-hmm.
Goddard probably has like 8, 9 touchdowns too. So if you just those three alone, like what's that, like 9 touchdowns, 8 touchdowns, 7 touchdowns,
17 and so 24 touchdowns.
like 24, 25 touchdowns between those three alone, and then you
Yeah.
add in the running backs out of the
Mm-hmm.
backfield, they'll catch a couple. You add in Quez, like I really do think that, especially with we always forget that we have the extra game in the season now. Like I
Exactly.
I think that those two receivers are two core guys. I think they can both be 80, 1,008 on both of them. I don't
Okay.
see where they, with our schedule and the way this offense is going to be
Mm-hmm.
progressing, I think 80, 1,008 for both is realistic. I honestly see that being a possibility in this offense.
Hey, I love it. So let's transition into the running back real quick before the defense. So Miles Sanders, a lot of people is very, very down on Miles Sanders because last year, how could you be a running back and have 0 touchdowns, right? Or my argument was every time he get us within the red zone, the goal line, they change packages. They bring Scott in, they bring a Gainwell in. So do you predict this year to be a bounce back year for Miles Sanders?
This is tough because I love Miles. I It's just about him being healthy. If he is healthy,
Mhm.
he is someone that will
Okay.
have
If
over.
healthy, if
If
healthy.
healthy,
Okay.
yes, I do think he has a bounce back year, and I do think that Kenneth Gainwell is going to be solid too. But I do think if Miles Sanders is healthy and plays at least 80% of snaps, he will have a solid year, especially in this offense. Our line's too good, and you
Mhm.
can't focus on him as much as you used to be able to in the past. I think that he will have a very good year.
All right, I'm about to ask you a hard question. Would he get more than one touchdown? Miles Sanders.
Yes, yes.
That was, but
I
yeah, I think
I
about
know
that.
it's tough. It really is tough. It was kind of like when Blake Griffin like couldn't jump anymore, and it was like,
Oh
will he
yeah,
get a
yeah,
dunk?
yeah, yeah. Oh man. All right. So the defense. All right, we got Hassan Riddick, Of course, we drafted Nakobe Dean, round 3. We got a big boy in the middle in Jordan Davis. And then we just picked up a couple weeks ago James Bradberry. So how good do you think this defense could be overall? And do you see that Jonathan Gannon is going to be a much better defensive coordinator this year?
Right now, I honestly do think the Eagles are going to have a really good defense. Number one, vibes. I think that the defensive unit really gets along. I was down there Saturday and meeting a lot of them,
Mm-hmm.
and those guys love each other. They're all hanging out together, getting along, talking, and like that's a big difference. Like you can tell when guys actually like each other, and they definitely do. And the big thing is our defensive line in front seven, like it is stacked right now. Like there's the rotation's going to be nasty because you don't have to rely on Derek Barnett being a starter. You don't even have to really
Yes.
rely him on being a number two. Like he's just going to be coming in late in the games or just whenever, and he'll just be fresh and he'll be hungry. But like you have Josh Sweat, you have Hassan Riddick, you have all these guys, and then you have all the big guys in the middle that are so versatile and just they have experience, like Hargrave and Fletcher Cox are guys with a lot of experience that not all teams
Mm-hmm.
have. And then you add Jordan Davis behind that. And then I
Emil
really,
Williams.
yeah, I'm a big fan of Kyzir White. I really liked him on the
Yes.
Chargers. And if I really think that they have a really versatile linebacker group now. And overall, like, I think the only question mark on our team is safety. But that being said, like, I like Marcus Epps. I think Marcus Epps
Hmm.
was really solid for us last year.
Yeah.
And then Anthony Harris is solid. And the one thing that you people gotta notice is like the defensive line and the cornerback group, they feed off of each other. When you're getting pressure, it gives more time for the cornerback. No, less time for the cornerbacks that they have to cover their wide receivers. And when the
Exactly.
when the cornerbacks are doing a really good job, then they don't have to cover that. Then you know what I mean. Like
Yeah. Yeah. They don't have to go too
they
long.
then the quarterbacks are rushed, and then that's when
A
those
lot of picks
defensive lines,
happen.
exactly, they're able to cause havoc. And I just really think that we have a perfect group, a lot of versatility, a lot of depth, and it's really just a safety group that's the question mark for fans. But I think Epps and Harris will be fine because we have the best cornerback tandem that we've had in a long
Mhm.
time. You have two potential All Pros, you have two Pro Bowlers there at the same time, and I love like I don't think people realize like if you want to give anyone credit for us making the playoffs last year, dude, Darius Slay was playing
Slay.
out of his mind. The
Yeah.
turnovers and everything that he was getting, and just him being able to negate people out of the game last year, like that was
Yeah.
huge for us because even if our defense wasn't playing lights out, those turnovers and everything that he was
Yeah.
affecting the play on, like it changes everything. And I really think the defense overall is going to be good. I think Jonathan Gannon, it's all on him because he finally has the pieces. Right now, there's
Hmm.
no excuses for him on defense because they
None.
finally got
Zero.
people. They got people. They
Exactly.
have depth and they have versatility.
All right, so hey, let's play this game. So Hassan Reddick had back-to-back double-digit sacks. I saw something. I heard something today on the TV show or whatever it was, and they said that the last Eagle that had back-to-back double-digit sack was who? Take a guess. The last
Back
Philadelphia
to
Eagles
back.
back-to-back double-digit
Oh,
sacks.
it was
And see
Oh my god. It it wasn't Barwin, was it? No, it was
what double. What he did have double digit sacks though. Barwin did, but they said back to back because I think they're trying to compare. Hassan Reddick had double digit sacks last year, so like would he have double digit sacks this year for the Philadelphia Eagles? There was like Trent Cole in 2010 and 2011.
Okay.
So was the
I knew
last
it.
Eagle back to back. So it's been a while. So I mean, I say that to say this: do you see Hassan Reddick getting double-digit sacks? I mean, how many sacks do you see? Maybe Sweat getting like give me like some stat lines on that monster defensive line.
I don't know what it is. I really do trust Hassan Reddick to get double digits. I really do. I think he is. Obviously, the only reason I think he wouldn't is because he's just rotating so much. But I think Reddick is going to be a monster. I honestly think him playing in front of a home crowd for himself, finally back in Philly, I think that's going to be a huge impact, and he's going to be juiced up. And for Sweat, I would say Sweat Dude, like Miles Sanders, it's all about health for him. I do think that
Yeah.
Sweat's going to be between like 8 and 11 sacks this year. I do think that he's going to be a monster because I just think that the inside interior part of our
Hmm.
defense is going to take up so much attention that those guys are going to be able to feast on the outside. And like sometimes the quarterbacks are just going to fall into the guys on the outside.
Yeah. All right. Two more questions. One, do you see this Philadelphia Eagles team that we have right now heading towards possibly, the early 2000s teams where we had a good defense, but our offense wasn't even like we didn't have no wide receivers like we do now. So do you feel like that this Eagle team, if everything fall into place, that we could possibly set up to dominate the divisions for years to come?
Yeah, I absolutely do. And this is for anyone, whether you believe in Jalen Hurts or not. We had the draft capital if we need to move on. And that's the thing.
Exactly.
We established everything else other than the quarterback right now. We have youth and we have veteran leadership at every position for the most part. Like, we're established. Like, this year could be an absolute monster of a year. And then you add in the fact that Washington, they have a really good defense and they have some
Hmm.
pieces on offense, but quarterback is really a question mark. New York, huge question mark at quarterback. And then Dallas, as good as Dak has been in some people's minds an MVP caliber conversation sometimes. They've done nothing. That's what I mean. It's like you've had a guy that people have considered putting up for like MVP, and you still have done nothing. That's why it's really funny when like you see Dallas fans like talk about like us making the playoffs and losing in the playoffs. Like you guys were the one seed. You guys were like amazing last year, and you guys made it as far as we did. So why are you talking? And that's why, like with the Eagles, though, it's like our expectations last year were nothing. We got as far as a lot of teams, or further than a lot of teams, ever thought we would get into the playoffs. And now, like I really do think that we are set up for a really solid long time because let's say Jalen Hurts is a guy and does well. We have all these picks and draft capital next year and
Hmm.
going forward, and we're stocked in most of the most important positions. We have our left tackle. We have like if you look at the core group of the Eagles, like all the positions of need, they're stocked, they're young, and they have premier guys in the front of it because like having the whole left side of the offensive line stacked already and the whole defense stacked already, it makes it so much easier to win games.
You there? So yeah, so the left side is stacked. The defense is young too, by the way.
I
All
think
right,
we're good
here we
again.
go.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
we good. We
I don't
good.
know
Go
why it
ahead.
keeps cutting out. I was
No,
just
it's
say
all
like
good.
we're like just stacked in all the right areas. We're young in the right areas, and
Young.
we have
Yeah.
draft capital. So I really do think that we're set up for a really solid run.
All right. So hey, I definitely gotta have you on before the season starts, but I'm about to ask you right now. This last question: what is the floor for the Eagles, and what is the ceiling for the Eagles as far as record wise?
I think the floor, man, like looking at the schedule, looking at everything, like even with worst case scenario, I
Mm-hmm.
think the floor for the Eagles should be like 7-10, and that's being really and that and that
Seven
and
and
that's
10.
and that's being negative for a floor because I think that the Eagles really should be a 10-win team.
Mhm.
I'm just saying, considering everything, because I'm very
Okay.
optimistic. Just saying, like injuries, things like that. Like 7-10. That's the absolute worst that we should be. Best that we should be, I would say. I'll say realistically, I would
Mhm.
say like if you look at a lot of good teams, like by the end of the year, I would say 13-4 would be really really good. I that would be amazing,
Okay.
honestly. Like that's considering all things going really well and
Mhm.
considering the schedule. Like 13-4 would be a really good ceiling, and then you roll into the playoffs. You know what I mean?
Uh, yeah, yeah, I do because I think that our floor is like last year. Look, if we 9-8 should be our floor. You cannot be worse than last year.
That's
At least
realistically what
tied
I think.
last year.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my ceiling is, I'm kind of like you. It's like 12-5. Because you're gonna lose some games that you're not supposed to lose.
Yeah.
It's a time of the year because our bye is week 7 or 8. Who knows how healthy these teams are going to be? We got like 5 primetime games. I mean, anything could happen. Some short weeks could happen in there. So, and who knows? We might wrap up the division and we don't need to play the last game, against the Giants. So, with all that being said, man, I appreciate you stopping by, man. Thank you very much, man. So, let them know where to find you and what you're working on. Like, what's the next big thing for you that you're trying to do?
Appreciate you. You can find me right here. It's Mally_Chris_24 on Twitter. Bunch of content on there. If you ever have any questions, you can feel free to hit me up on there or.
All right. Look, as always, man. Hey, you know how we do, man. Hey, go Birds.